ai, ai.
An unprecedented hunt. More than 100 wild boars ravaged the crops, causing chaos in the area. Local authorities, farmers, and the most experienced hunters joined forces to launch a large-scale hunting campaign. The journey stretched from vast rice fields to rugged hilltops, where the wild boars sought to escape. Let's follow the dramatic ambushes. The thrilling chase is a real battle, not for the faint-hearted. Receiving the news, a herd of wild boars of enormous size had invaded the field near our house. Unable to wait any longer, we immediately brought our weapons and prepared to fight. After determining the location of the herd of boars, the whole team dispersed, lying in ambush in many directions. The first shots rang out. The herd of pigs panicked and fled in all directions, but there was no way out. We took down 5 of them in the first round. The rest ran in all directions, but we didn't let them escape easily. The surviving wild boars ran for their lives into the dense grass, trying to hide among the bushes. But with the support of our elite hunting dogs, we followed their tracks closely, not letting any of them escape. The hiding place of the herd of boars had been discovered. We split up and closed in on the target. When the signal was given, we opened fire simultaneously. The wild boars ran in all directions, trying to find a way to escape, but it was too late. The number of spoils increased day by day, making the whole team extremely excited. What is this? This wild boar seems to have no idea what is going on. It is still immersed in prey. This is a good opportunity that cannot be missed. Boom! A shot could not be more perfect. The wild boar rushed away in pain, but before it could go far, it collapsed. Moving along the trail, suddenly, a rustling sound rang out from the reeds. Familiar black shadows appeared. Waiting until the herd of pigs was in the ideal shooting range. At this moment, the sound of gunfire echoed, accompanied by the sound of pigs screaming in pain. After a few shots, the leader collapsed, dragging the whole herd away. We quickly chased after them, taking down 2 more before they could escape. Without time to rejoice, the whole team tried their best to pursue the hiding targets. The group quietly approached, using a siege tactic. When the distance was close enough, we opened fire simultaneously. The sound of gunfire rang out. 1 pig was hit and rolled to the ground, but the others immediately ran away. Quickly changing the direction of the gun, then continuously pulling the trigger. The whole team had to coordinate continuous attacks to be able to take down the herd of pigs after nearly 10 minutes of intense fighting.
Moleque do céu, para aqui que é o lugar.
As dusk fell, we spotted a small wild boar trying to escape. We can't let that happen. It will breed and cause trouble in the future.
Ai, ai, ai.
Boom. Quick, decisive. The target was taken down in an instant. After a long day of intense fighting, we had killed a total of 100 wild boars. This was definitely one of the biggest wild boar hunting battles in history. But the fight is not over yet. The wild boars are still breeding, and we will definitely have to continue fighting in the future.
Enough.
Did you enjoy today's trip? Leave your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to watch more exciting hunts. Goodbye and see you again.
Wild boars, a real nightmare for the people. They not only invade the fields, but also openly wander around residential areas, rummaging for food. Witnessing this endless destruction, we could no longer stand idly by. Hunting trips became a mandatory task, a never-ending battle to protect the land and peaceful life. We only hope that one day, the fear of wild boars will no longer haunt us. Our destination this time was the swamp. Why did we choose this place? Because the swamp provides an abundant source of food, and it is a haven for wild boars. Many hunters often avoid this area because of the difficult terrain, creating conditions for the wild boar population to thrive, becoming a great threat to the surrounding cultivated areas. The airboat roared, rushing forward at an incredible speed. On board, we were already our eyes focused. Our target today was a herd of ferocious wild boars who had repeatedly invaded and destroyed farmers' crops. They were not easy to deal with, smart, alert, always knowing how to hide among the dense grass. After a while of searching, the sound of the engine woke the herd up. They panicked and ran away. Immediately, the boat accelerated, chasing after the scattered herd of pigs. A series of bullets were fired continuously. A wild boar was hit, but still continued to run. Another shot, the wild boar collapsed right in the middle of the mud. The remaining ones ran at terrifying speeds, hiding among the vegetation. We patiently followed the target. Each shot was carefully calculated to take down the prey as quickly as possible. The gunshots sent the herd of wild boars into a panic. Dozens of them rushed out of the bushes, scattering in all directions. The herd was surrounded. They had no way to escape. Shots rang out one after another. An adult wild boar was hit by a bullet, staggered, and collapsed. A little further away, another one was trying to hide, but was also taken down shortly after. The airboat continued to move towards deeper waters, where the ecosystem was extremely rich. The dense aquatic vegetation made moving more difficult than ever. After the high-speed chases, a series of bullets rang out continuously. With each shot, a wild boar fell. At this time, the amount of spoils we had was extremely large. The airboat slowly glided across the shallow mud flats, leaving behind trails of murky water. On the soft mud, the wild boar footprints were deeply imprinted, still very fresh. The herd had just been here, not long ago. We quickly dispersed our formation, scanning every dense patch of grass, every dense clump of trees. It didn't take long for the target to appear. As soon as we discovered the herd of wild boars, we immediately launched an attack. The entire herd immediately panicked. Dozens of wild boars rushed out of the bushes, scattering in all directions, trying to find a way to escape. However, with our relentless attack, they had absolutely no chance of survival. On the vast grassland, we were chasing a fleeing wild boar at full speed. Not missing the opportunity, I immediately raised my gun and pulled the trigger. The first shot hit the target, but it still stubbornly charged forward, showing no signs of stopping. I quickly adjusted my posture, aiming forward, and intercepted its running direction. The second shot resounded. The wild boar staggered a few steps before completely collapsing. We approached, observing the prey we had just taken down. A worthy trophy for the dramatic moments of pursuit. However, the hunt was not over yet. We wanted more. While scanning the area, I suddenly discovered a wild boar lurking in the tall grass. Immediately, the group deployed a siege tactic to pressure the boar to leave its hiding place. Sensing danger, the wild boar suddenly rushed out of the grass, galloping away at an incredible speed. We immediately opened fire, a precise shot, taking down the wild boar instantly. The marsh scene was now extremely chaotic, making it extremely difficult to find a target. A few minutes later, a giant boar, weighing about 150 kilograms, came into range. Seizing the opportunity, the weapon in my hand was ready. I pulled the trigger without hesitation. With just one accurate shot, the wild boar was taken down. Continuing to wander in the vast and mysterious swamp, our hunt continued. We listened to every little sound and were ready to fire at any time. At the end of a long day, the number of wild boars taken down was not small, and what was special was that most of them were huge, with adults weighing hundreds of kilograms, a challenging hunting trip, but also brought unexpected results.
Every year, when the crops are in the strong growth stage, it is also the time the wild boars begin to invade the fields, destroying the farmers' efforts. The surveillance cameras recorded the horrifying scene. Hundreds of wild boars frantically ravaged, trampled the crops, and destroyed the rice, corn, and soybean fields. The fruits of the farmers' labor suddenly became a wild feast. Unable to stand idly by, we decided to take action. A large-scale hunt was organized, where experienced hunters joined forces, made meticulous plans, and were ready to enter a tense battle with this dangerous enemy. As soon as we arrived at the field, we received a signal from the surveillance camera. A herd of wild boars was hiding in the grass. We quickly deployed our formation. As we approached, a large wild boar suddenly rushed out, as if it had sensed danger. Without hesitation, we immediately raised our guns, aimed carefully. Boom! The first shot rang out, and the monster collapsed on the spot. The noise startled the herd of wild boars, and they scattered and ran away. But the hunt had just begun. We continued to scan the grass. Calm down. The wild boars were still here. Immediately, the team leader signaled his teammates to disperse, surrounding them from many directions. A wild boar realized the danger and tried to run away, but the weapon was ready. A precise shot caused it to collapse on the ground. At this time, the herd of wild boars nearby split up and ran away towards the dense cornfields and grass patches nearby. We immediately chased after them. The hunting dogs ran ahead, barking loudly to signal that the target was very close. A giant wild boar tried to hide but was discovered by us. Approaching, observing carefully, waiting for the right moment. When it moved, we immediately pulled the trigger. The gunshot rang out, the monster stopped, then collapsed right under the ambush position. Seizing the opportunity, the whole team moved into the ambush position, closely following the flame targets. Fatal shots rang out. Each giant wild boar was destroyed. While passing through a patch of tall, dense grass, suddenly, a wild boar suddenly charged straight towards us. It ran so fast that it was unbelievable, startling everyone. We reacted immediately, raised our guns, and pulled the trigger when it was only a few meters away. The bullet hit its head, causing it to collapse immediately. This was why we had to stay alert at all times. One moment of carelessness, and we could become prey. It seemed that a large herd of wild boars was hiding here. We immediately deployed an ambush formation. When we received the signal, the whole group opened fire. The sound of gunfire echoed throughout the field. When the smoke cleared, 3 more wild boars were lying on the ground. The remaining ones ran away in panic, but they would definitely never return to this land again. Following the trail, we arrived at a nearby forest. Before long, the signal from the dogs continued to ring out. Here it is. The whole team regained their spirits, ready for a ruthless battle. 1 shot, 1 kill. The fall of the herd of pigs was our motivation to fight. Under the scorching midday sun, we continued our journey. In the distance, the hunting dogs had discovered another herd of wild pigs moving through the trees. The group immediately accelerated to approach. We quickly aimed at the leader, a giant wild pig weighing no less than 150 kilograms. A precise shot made it collapse. But before I could celebrate, I discovered another one running towards the main road. I couldn't let it escape, so I continued to fire. The result, another wild pig was taken down. As dusk fell, we received a report from a nearby farmer. Another herd of wild boars had just invaded the nearby grassy hill. Without hesitation, we immediately rushed in. This time, we had to face at least 6 wild boars that were wreaking havoc. My teammates and I divided up the most advantageous positions. When the wild boars realized the danger, they immediately ran away. But none of them could escape our sharpshooters. Within a few minutes, the entire herd of wild boars was taken down. we have killed dozens of wild boars. The fields have temporarily returned to peace, but we know that this battle is not over yet. The wild boars will return, and we will always be ready. Every year, when the planting season begins, farmers worry about the invasion of wild boars. They not only destroy the fields, but also cause heavy damage to the people. The camera recorded horrifying images of wild boars digging and turning the land upside down. This morning, we decided to take action. Fully armed, the wild boar hunting team set out. Follow us and see what we can do to protect the crops. As soon as we arrived at the field, we saw dense traces on the ground. Quickly approached. In a flash, an accurate shot was fired. The leader was taken down. The battle officially began. We strained our eyes to observe every trace. The open terrain made approaching the target easier than ever. No one said a word. Everyone quickly dispersed, taking up favorable positions. Someone gave a signal. The sound of gunfire tore through the quiet atmosphere. Bullets flew towards the target. The wild boars panicked and ran away. One was hit right in the head, falling on the spot. The others struggled to find a way to escape, but the terrain of the field did not give them many options. We did not waste the opportunity, continuing to aim at the remaining ones. Finally, after a few minutes of struggle, the first battle ended with unexpected success. After the opening battle, we continued to move deeper into the area where wild boars often appeared. At this time, a large figure was wallowing in a puddle. It had discovered us and gradually became alert. Without further hesitation, adjusted the scope and decisively pulled the trigger, taking down the target. The nearby wild boars were frightened, but with tight tactics, we quickly controlled the situation. The strongest ones tried to escape the pursuit, but everything was in vain. The battle lasted longer than expected, but in the end, the wild boars could not escape. In front of us was a large and dense grass field, making it difficult to detect the target. While discussing the battle plan, the noise from the grass attracted the attention of the whole team. Suddenly, a group of wild boars rushed out of their hiding place, running at full speed towards a nearby wild grass field. Unable to let them escape, we immediately chased after them, seizing the opportunity to attack. Gunshots rang out continuously. The fight ended when the last ones lost their strength and collapsed to the ground. Just when we thought we had the situation under control, a giant black shadow appeared at the edge of the forest. This was no ordinary wild boar. It was a giant, old male boar, clearly the leader of the pack. Unlike the others, it did not run away but stood still, observing us with bloodshot eyes. The whole team immediately got into position. We knew that with just one wrong move, this monster could charge straight at anyone. One person slowly raised his gun, aiming straight at its weak point. After a tense struggle, the monster was finally taken down, ending the challenging battle. Following the traces left by the target, we moved towards the nearby hill. The wild boars here overwhelmed us. They were too big and too numerous. It took us a lot of time and effort to take them down. However, that was only part of it. A few cunning wild boars still had a chance to escape. The hill had now become a real battlefield. We continued to move deeper and discovered another large group of wild boars. This time, we couldn't let them escape. An all-out attack was launched. Gunshots rang out incessantly, and wild boars ran in all directions, looking for a way to escape. We had to keep moving to avoid counterattacks. Some of them recklessly turned back to fight back, forcing us to be extremely cautious. After a while of intense fighting, the herd gradually weakened. After hours of fighting, we discovered a few small wild boars trying to find a way to escape. This was our chance to end this arduous hunt. The whole team quickly deployed their formation, trying to surround them once more. Gunshots rang out. One shot, one kill. Along the trail, we prepared to return. At this time, on the electric hill there were still a few targets left. Perhaps the wild boars had luckily escaped after the fierce battles. Determined not to let them escape, the whole team tried their best to chase. From the top of the hill down to the valley, even in the dense bushes. We completed the target. Destroyed the entire herd of pigs, bringing peace to the residential area. Darkness fell. The space was eerily silent, only the wind whistling softly through the treetops. Tonight, we set out to hunt wild boars, monsters that are destroying the fields, disrupting the lives of the villagers. The group equipped themselves with hunting guns and some necessary equipment, ready for the hunt. The darker it was, the more dangerous the hunt became. But that only made us more excited. Wild boars have invaded and destroyed our fields many times, causing no small amount of damage. Although we used many preventive measures, they were not very effective. They were too cunning and ferocious, so we decided to go hunting, to completely eliminate this threat. Following the pigs' footprints on the wet ground, we headed towards a wide grassland. Huge black shadows loomed before our eyes. There they were. The group immediately got into position and opened fire simultaneously. One shot, one kill. The scene at this time became extremely chaotic. The wild boars were running around. We had taken down most of them. However, there were still a few targets that had managed to escape. We quickly chased after them. One was shot in the leg and collapsed in the middle of the road. The last two ran for their lives, but they could not escape the net of bullets. We followed the trail, heading to a large grassy area near the edge of the forest, where the digging traces were still fresh, proving that the pigs often came to forage. As expected, a herd of wild boars was busy rummaging through the soil, completely unaware of the hunter approaching. The group quickly got into position. That was it. Aim straight at the leader. A precise shot. The boar collapsed on the spot. The whole herd suddenly woke up, panicked and looked for a way to escape. But it wasn't over yet. The atmosphere was still tense after the recent series of shots. Every step was cautious, because the wild boars could appear at any moment. Suddenly, in front of me, a giant wild boar appeared. It was terrifyingly large, definitely not less than 150 kilograms. But what was more important, it did not run away. Unable to hesitate, I resolutely pulled the trigger. The gunshot rang out, the monster was hit, staggered, and collapsed to the ground. It gasped for a few seconds, then lay motionless. I swept the scope around to check the surrounding terrain and immediately froze. There were too many of them. It was a herd of pigs. We decided to ambush. Everyone quietly got into position, each choosing a suitable shooting angle, ready to fire. The sound of gunfire tore through the silence. 3 pigs fell on the spot. 2 others were hit but still ran, trying to escape. One only managed to crawl a few meters before collapsing from exhaustion. The last one was cornered, desperately looking for a way out. But there was no chance. A fatal bullet ended it all. The ambush was quick and the result was beyond imagination. So great. On the way back, when everyone thought the hunt was over, suddenly a strange sound rang out in the quiet night. Everyone stopped immediately, holding their breath to listen. A familiar figure appeared through the thermal scope. For experienced hunters like us, letting it escape was not an option. The group quickly got into position. A shot rang out decisively. The target fell instantly. Just when it seemed like the hunt was over, a terrifying roar rang out from the depths of the forest. It appeared and disappeared behind the tree trunks. In order to scare the target, we decided to attack from a distance. We raised our guns and pulled the trigger decisively. The wild boar stalker raised its head and roared loudly before collapsing. No one said a word, only heavy breathing and the smell of gunpowder lingered in the air. The moon was high in the sky. After the intense battle, the wild boars around here had almost been wiped out. Only a few strays remained, wandering aimlessly in the darkness. But with all the damage they had done, I certainly wouldn't let any of them escape. The gunshots rang out again. One pig was hit in the neck and fell down instantly. The other one ran away in panic, but before it could get far, it was also felled by a precise shot. It was finally over. A tense, dramatic, yet satisfying trip. We cleaned up the battlefield, ready to return, closing an unforgettable hunt. Wild boar, from a wild animal, now turned into a real disaster. Reports of hundreds of wild boars descending on residential areas were increasing. The local authorities could no longer stand idly by. They stepped in. This time, we participated in a large-scale wild boar hunting campaign organized by the government. With full weapons, modern equipment, and support from the rangers, we entered the hills, considered the epicenter of the wild boar crisis. Starting early in the morning, marching up the hills, where surveillance cameras detected a herd of more than 30 wild boars advancing toward the fields below. The terrain on the hills was very complicated, but also an advantage for ambushes. The group split up, quietly advancing toward the herd. When the distance was only about 50 meters, the signal to fire was given. The first shots rang out. 3 wild boars fell on the spot. The others ran away in panic, but it was too late. Within a few minutes, 4 more were taken down. An impressive start to today's campaign. Continuing to move, we discovered another group of wild boars running up the hillside. We immediately gave chase. Moving through mountainous terrain was not easy, but once we entered this battle, no one had any intention of giving up. Any target that entered the scope was taken down by the skilled shooters in the team. The others continued to run, but could not escape our observation from above. 5 minutes later, the entire herd of boars was annihilated. Advancing deeper into the forest, we encountered a giant wild boar. We were all too familiar with this situation. Without hesitation, we calmly aimed and shot straight at its head. The bullet hit right in the middle of its forehead, decisively taking down the target. At this time, our teammates were equally tense. Many other wild boars were discovered, and then a fierce chase took place. The sound of gunfire mixed with the screams of the pigs. This was the price they had to pay for what they had caused. As the sun rose, we entered a dense forest, which was said to be the lair of the largest herd of wild boars in the area. Suddenly, a wild boar jumped out of the bushes and charged straight towards the ambush location. One of the team members kept firing. However, the boar kept changing direction and charging. Without thinking much, we raised our guns and shot when it was only 3 meters away. The fatal shot caused the boar to collapse right in front of me. The others saw this and started to run away in panic, and we immediately took the opportunity to kill 6 more. Today was a lucky hunting day. It didn't take us long to find the next targets. Changing tactics, we would attack from the top of the mountain, where we had the perfect view and shooting angle. When the herd of boars started to pour out of the trees, we quickly took them down one by one, turning this area into a real battlefield. After a long day of fighting, the whole team was exhausted, but their fighting spirit did not decrease. Another herd of wild boars was discovered. The whole team advanced, approaching from many directions. When the herd discovered us, they panicked and tried to run away, but with the tight encirclement tactic, none of them could escape. After 10 minutes of tense struggle, the entire herd of boars was finally taken down. A few lucky targets escaped our sights, but we quickly found them because of the traces they left behind. Gunfire echoed once again, completely taking down the target. We stood on the hilltop, looking down at the battlefield below. A day of hunting was a great success. With dozens of wild boars killed, the campaign has saved hundreds of hectares of farmland from the ravages of wild boars. But this is just the beginning. The wild boar population is still very large, and the fight is certainly not over. The local government has seen the importance of controlling the wild boar population, and in the coming time, there will be more hunting campaigns to protect crops and people.
The vast fields of Texas are in ruins. Uncontrolled wild boar populations have invaded farms, tearing up fields and wreaking havoc. Farmers are at their wits' end as the damage continues to pile up. We can't let them run rampant any longer. This time, we're not just hunting from the ground. We have a superior advantage, a helicopter. The aerial hunt begins, high speed, heavy firepower, and no escape for the wild boars. Wild boar invasions are a serious issue in Texas, USA. However, controlling their numbers is a challenge due to their intelligence and elusiveness. Hunting and trapping measures have been implemented, but their effectiveness remains limited. Additionally, bringing wild boar meat to market faces challenges due to strict federal inspection regulations. The helicopter takes off. From above, the wild boars are clearly visible, scattering across the fields. The pilot immediately tilts the aircraft, maintaining a steady speed. We adjust our aim, locking onto the targets. The first round of bullets cuts through the wind, echoing across the fields. 2 boars are hit instantly, dropping to the ground. The rest desperately try to escape, but they are no match for the roaring helicopter above. 3 more go down within seconds. The first 5 targets are eliminated. The aircraft glides forward, scanning the fields. The crops provide little cover for the fleeing boars. We switch weapons, switching to semi-automatic rifles to maximize continuous fire. Some manage to slip away in the chaos. The pilot quickly adjusts the flight angle, giving us a better shooting position. Within minutes, we claim more trophies. As we continue the fight, the pilot spots another herd nearby. Without hesitation, the attack begins. The first barrage takes down multiple targets. Some are wounded, but still trying to escape. But nowhere to run. We quickly locate their hiding spots. From above, there is no cover. Precise shots take them down in an instant. Down below, dark figures dart through the grass. We lower altitude. The helicopter roars just overhead. The chase is on. Gunshots ring out. 2 more boars drop immediately. Another tries to flee, but doesn't make it. The pilot circles around, surveying the area before wrapping up the hunt. A few more boars are spotted and swiftly taken down. But we know this is just one battle in a long war. More herds will emerge, and the hunt is far from over.
boy shot me in the ass all wrong.
In recent days, people in the area have been complaining about the damage caused by the serious damage caused by wild boars. Crops were destroyed, barns were invaded, and even some livestock were attacked. The wild boars were not only numerous, but also larger than normal, some weighing up to 250 kilograms. Faced with this situation, we decided to go hunting to protect the crops and end the rampage of the ferocious pigs. As soon as it was getting dark, we arrived at the field near the forest. At this time, the wild boars had begun to leave their shelter to look for food. What do you see? This herd of pigs had at least 10, each of them was huge in size, with sharp fangs that looked quite ferocious. Without hesitation, we aimed at the largest one and pulled the trigger. The gunshot rang out, and the pig that was hit collapsed on the spot. At the same time, my comrade quickly opened fire, and in a moment, the other 3 pigs also fell. The remaining pigs ran in panic to find a place to hide. Leaving there, we moved to the cornfield area, where pig footprints were printed all over the moist soil. A slight noise was heard from the cornfield. Another herd was approaching. We waited patiently, holding our breath and watching. When the pigs came into range, the first round of bullets rang out, pinning an adult wild boar. It rushed away in pain and disappeared into the cornfield. However, the wound was quite deep and it certainly could not have run far. The battle became tense as the herd of pigs appeared more and more crowded. This time, they stood crowded around a furrow field. We approached cautiously, making sure that every step didn't make any noise. Everyone was in position, ready to fire. A real chase began. The wounded boars scattered, trying to escape the bullets, but we wouldn't allow that to happen. After a while of chasing, more boars were taken down. But our battle continued. Moving to a large rice field. Here, another herd of pigs was rampaging. We quickly approached, each person taking position. When the shots rang out, 3 pigs fell down. The remaining 2 tried to escape, but were too late. A few targets were running away. We accelerated, chasing the leader pig. It was extremely agile, but could not escape the target. With a precise shot, the pig immediately fell. We thought the herd had temporarily retreated, but no, they were standing right in front of us, less than 100 meters away from our ambush position. There was no time to plan carefully. We raised our guns, aiming straight at the nearest target. When the first shot rang out, the herd of boars went from a state of stillness to panic. Some even rushed towards us at an incredible speed. Keeping our cool, we continued to fire. Just when it seemed like the hunt was almost over, a huge black shadow suddenly appeared at the edge of the forest. Everyone immediately focused on the target, held their breath, and aimed carefully. The wild boar stood firm, roaring angrily. We continued to fire until they collapsed in the middle of the grass. It was late at night. We returned to our original position, where there were still signs of wild boar activity. As expected, another group of wild boars appeared. Although we were tired, we still kept our spirits up, focusing on the target. The last shots rang out, marking the end of the battle for tonight. The invaders were repelled, at least temporarily. Looking back at the battlefield, we couldn't help but feel proud of what we had done. Although we had taken down many wild boars, this was certainly not the last time we would face them. This battle is still ongoing,